Have you ever heard the story of Dorothy Arnold? A dazzling socialite, a wealthy heiress, and an aspiring writer, who vanished into thin air one winter's day in New York City. This isn't just a missing persons case. It's a century-old mystery that has baffled everyone, from Pinkerton detectives to her own powerful family. Let's set the scene. It's December 12, 1910. 25-year-old Dorothy, dressed impeccably in a blue serge suit, a black velvet hat, and carrying a large muff, leaves her family's opulent home on East 79th Street. She tells her mother she's going shopping for a dress for her sister's upcoming debutante party. It's a perfectly normal errand for a young woman of her stature. She walks down Fifth Avenue, a bustling street even back then, filled with shoppers and the clatter of horse-drawn carriages. Around 2 p.m., she bumps into a friend, Gladys King, outside a bookstore. They chat for a few minutes. Dorothy seems happy, excited even. She mentions she's going to take a walk through Central Park before heading home. She waves goodbye to Gladys, smiles, and walks off. And that was the last time anyone ever saw Dorothy Arnold. As evening fell and Dorothy hadn't returned, her family began to worry. This was unusual. Dorothy was reliable. Panic set in. But here's the first strange twist. Her parents, Frances and Mary Arnold, didn't call the police. Why? Because of their social standing. They were terrified of a scandal, of the newspapers getting hold of the story and dragging the family name through the mud. So, for 6 long weeks, they tried to solve the mystery themselves. They hired private investigators from the famous Pinkerton agency. They quietly questioned Dorothy's friends. They searched hospitals and morgues, all under a veil of absolute secrecy. They even contacted a man Dorothy had been secretly involved with. His name was George Griscom Jr., a 42-year-old engineer from a good family, but someone Dorothy's father strongly disapproved of. The family had discovered their secret romance earlier that year, finding letters they'd exchanged. Dorothy had met him in college, and they were deeply in love. Her father had forbidden her from seeing him, convinced George wasn't good enough for his daughter. When the investigators questioned George, who was in Italy at the time, he was as shocked as anyone. He knew nothing. He even sent a cable back to Dorothy's mother saying, "I have not heard from Dorothy. Am ready to come to New York at once if you think I am needed." He later returned to help the search, but it led nowhere. After 6 weeks of dead ends and mounting fear, the Arnolds could no longer keep it a secret. They finally went to the police, and the story exploded. Heiress vanishes. The headlines screamed. The disappearance of Dorothy Arnold became the biggest news story in the country. The police launched a massive investigation. They dredged the Central Park Reservoir, thinking she might have fallen through the ice. They followed up on hundreds of tips, sightings from across the country, none of which panned out. The theories were wild. Did she run away with a secret lover? Her family insisted she was happy, and had no reason to leave. The letters to George Griscom suggested a deep connection, but he seemed genuinely clueless. Could she have suffered from amnesia and wandered off, starting a new life somewhere, completely unaware of her past? It's possible, but unlikely, for her to remain undiscovered for so long. Then there were the darker theories. Some whispered that Dorothy had sought a Bacali medical procedure that had gone horribly wrong, and the doctor, to cover it up, disposed of her body. This was a common and tragic fate for many women at the time. Her family fiercely denied this, stating she was in perfect health. And of course, there was the possibility of foul play. Was she kidnapped for ransom? But no ransom note ever arrived. Was she the victim of a random, violent act on the streets of New York? Years turned into decades. Francis Arnold spent over $100,000, a fortune back then, searching for his daughter. He believed until his dying day that she had been murdered. On his deathbed, he made his wife promise to keep spending the family fortune to find out what happened to Dorothy. But they never did. The case grew cold, evolving from a frantic search into a chilling piece of New York folklore. To this day, the file on Dorothy Arnold remains open. No body was ever found. No credible explanation ever surfaced. She simply walked down Fifth Avenue on a winter afternoon and vanished from the face of the earth, leaving behind only a name, a photograph, and a haunting unanswered question. What happened to the Vanishing Heiress?